Not gonna finish it. Story 5. One Christmas my uncle brought my future aunt-in-law over to meet everyone. I was 12 and she had big boobs. Like, stupidly big. I got binoculars as a gift as part of a kid's spy kit. I thought I was being so clever to pretend to look around the room with them just so I could stealthily, she was sitting 10 feet away, get a full zoomed-in image of those lovely jubblies. I did this for like 30 minutes. Story 6. I know someone who got pregnant from a guy and then later married him, no problems yet. Then, though the girl's mum and the guy's dad got together and had their own kid. So now the original couple has a brother together. The baby has a sister and brother married to each other, but they were married before any of the weird crap happened, so... Doc Story 7. Briefly during high school, my girlfriend's parents were on the rocks. The mum was sleeping with another guy and the family was in rough shape, so the dad's response was to go after my single mum. Next thing you know, my girlfriend's dad is having an affair with my mum, while the girlfriend's mum is having an affair with an old flame. They're going on double dates together, and the girlfriend and I are just suddenly unofficial step-siblings. And yes, it was awkward, even though it really had nothing to do with us. Thankfully, it did not last long. Maybe a month. Her mum and dad reconciled and things went back to normal. There was one night where they all came over to my mum's apartment with wine. We all drank. The mum and her fling went to a hotel. My mum and the dad went to bed, and then the girlfriend and I went to bed. That was weird. Does that count? Does it answer the question? No, not really, but what? What is this story? Going on double dates with the people you started cheating with is... That's insane. That's absurd to me. Story 8. Debated using a throwaway account, but it doesn't matter. Everyone I know already knows this. If I've ever drawn out my very confusing family tree, I call it the family bush or shrub. I'm the product of just such a situation, but it's more convoluted than that. You know how everyone has two sets of grandparents, your father's parents and your mother's parents? Well, both sets of my grandparents divorced when my parents were just young kids. And then my father's father married my mother's mother. All of this was a decade or more before I was born. My paternal grandfather legally adopted my mother. She was about 9 years old at the time. And my father was raised by his mother and her subsequent husbands in a separate household. So my parents knew of each other's existence, but weren't raised together. They met as late teens, got pregnant, married, divorced a few months later, and then I was born. Mum was already married to husband number 2 of 5 by the time of my birth, but that's a whole other story. I ended up being adopted by my grandparents at age 2, the ones that are my paternal grandfather and maternal grandmother, which makes me a sort of second-generation son, since they never had any direct kids with each other, just in their previous marriages. Odd side effects? I'm related to both sides of the family by blood, and am the only person in this situation since everyone else can just trace the lineage back to one set of grandparents or the other but not both. And due to me being adopted by my grandparents, it moves me up a generation. So I'm legally siblings with my own parents. Heck, I'm even my own uncle. Never really grew up around my actual birth parents, but they are both great-grandparents to my own children. My adopted parents have already died, but being raised by Depression-era grandparents definitely made for a different upbringing, not to mention having lived on a boat for years. Again, another long story. I've only had rudimentary discussions with my parents about what it was like for them to be in that situation. Apparently it was a bit of an uproar in the family, but it all worked out since I'm alive. I'm fairly intelligent, have all my fingers and no weird tics or twitches. Best of all, due to their teenage hookups, they now get to see each other at all family gatherings, weddings, graduations, etc. over 40 years later. And this situation made the seating chart at my own wedding a near impossible task due to me having 3 mothers and 6 fathers. Mum, stepmum, adopted mum, father, adopted father, and 4 stepfathers. While I was being raised into young adulthood, I tended to always act/relate more like a sibling with my birth parents than a parent or child. But this has somewhat changed after the deaths of my adopted parents to a more grandparents/parent relationship. Just seems to make more sense, and it's easier for my kids to relate to. Other odd side effects? I was raised by the grandparents, my siblings by their birth parents. And I'm the youngest in my adopted generation, but the oldest in my blood generation. And due to the multiple marriages in my parents' generation, some of my half-siblings aren't related to each other. One brother and I share a father in common, other brother, sister, and I share a mother, but all 3 have different fathers. So I'm the youngest and the oldest, have siblings but was an only child, depending on how you look at the situation. I've had people ask me what it was like to have such a weird background, but keep in mind this all happened before I was born or was too young to know the difference, so this is my form of normal. I've never known any other way a family should be set up until I started making my own. I like to think of it that I was wanted and loved by so many people that they had to share. What a wholesome ending to an absolutely insane story. I can't imagine seeing someone used to hook up with at family gatherings 40 years later. I don't know if that's incredibly lucky or very unlucky.